Hey guys, and welcome to a GameXplain Roundtable discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by some of the biggest Sega fans I know to talk about the company's recent restructuring. So before we get into the thick of it, let's introduce everyone. First up is Ryan Malice from BrainScratchComms.
Hello, hello.
Ted Xan Shadow Weeson from BrainScratchComms as well.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Johnny Ortiz from both BrainScratch and his own channel, Some Call Me Johnny.
Where's the punch?
Later, I'll punch you. Then we have Donnie from TSSZnews.com.
Hi guys, how's it going?
And then Gareth FTA Spriggs.
I'm so alone.
No, there's 6 other of us because we also have Jamie the Great Clement.
Aloha, how's it going?
All right, so as you can tell, this is a full house, and I thought no better reason to bring us all together is the fact that there's some big news coming out of Sega. Mainly the fact that they are restructuring and they're switching focus from console games to PC and mobile games. So I thought with having you guys all around, especially being all big Sonic fans, and I'm hoping Sega fans in general, just get your opinions on why this is all going down and what we all think about this. So let's just go around the room and just say gut reactions to this general news of Sega basically having some real bad financial trouble.
My first reaction was, well.
So excited there.
I'll have to say, my first reaction was it wasn't exactly like a big shock, because to be fair, Sega have been saying this for a few years now, that I think it was maybe 2012, like 13, like where that was the first time they mentioned that they were going to start pushing more towards the mobile and PC gaming type thing. So like the strategy of kind of moving slightly away from consoles isn't exactly as overnight as a lot of people are treating it like. So again, I mean, it sucks, but
Do you think like I don't exactly remember that far back in terms of what Sega was planning on doing with their infrastructure, but do you think that was just to like test waters, give it one last console push, and then if that ends up ultimately failing, that's it, screw it, like cut the rope, we're going straight to PC mobile gaming? Because that's what it feels like to me.
To me, it's kind of like, I mean, they've always been very successful with PCs. Like, I mean, their franchises like PC Manager and like Total Rome that always kick ass on PC because they're the well-made games. I think, and this is just me speculating, but I think sometimes Sega kind of feel like if they put out a bad product and it doesn't sell well, they'll kind of be like, oh, console gaming doesn't work for us anymore, rather than just maybe we should make some better games.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It could be, just a thought. You could make better games.
Sonic Boom did bad. The Sonic brand ruined. Kill him! Kill him!
Well, to be fair, Sonic Boom isn't the first game that Sega's made to do poorly, I should say, both in sales and in general critical reception. Like, we all know about the general mess that Sonic 06 was.
But 06 didn't sell badly, though. 06 sold enough to become a platinum game, which you have to sell a certain amount to reach that status.
Yeah, over 1 million copies for
yeah, so like 06 was... I mean, critically, we all know what a terrible mess that was, but like, you can't say it was a commercial failure.
Another thing I discovered was that, like, when I was doing a playthrough of Sonic Unleashed for YouTube, I noticed that, like, I was looking over the sales of the Wii versions and the PS2 versions, because I always assumed those were the inferior versions that nobody really played, because a lot of people had been coming up to me saying, oh, I've never played that version before, that should be interesting to watch. And it even turns out, like, even the Wii and PlayStation 2 versions did pretty well in contrast to a lot of other platformers. So I think Sonic's always been a big cash cow regardless.
Well, I think that's the reason they chose to do that whole deal with Nintendo, where they had 3 exclusive Sonic games for the Wii U. And because traditionally, I guess, Sonic always sold better on Nintendo consoles. So does this shed further light that whole plan of, like, okay, we're going to push the Wii U and push Nintendo, and boy, did that backfire in their faces. Does that have anything to do with this whole restructuring problem? Or is that just sort of like, well, crap, we failed, and let's just try something else?
Well, Sonic Boom would have had the same problems were it a Wii U game or or PS3, PS4, whatever Xbone kind of game. Like, I know that there was some specific, like, hardware issues with the Wii U in particular. I think the CryEngine had issues trying to run both screens at the same time, or something to that effect. I'm not a tech person, so I don't know for sure, but the same sort of, like, game design problems would have been the same no matter what system the game was on. So I don't think it's necessarily the fact that Nintendo was the issue there. I do think, however, that it was kind of clear that I think that Sega wanted to get out of that contract because it was, like, being stuck with a publisher is never good for them because they want to have their games on as many systems as possible.
I would counteract that with I would make the argument that it kind of is a Nintendo issue, but not for the reason saying the Wii U is a bad console, and maybe not so much for Boom, because by that point Mario Kart had come out and Smash was about to come out. But when the first two games were released, it was Sonic Lost World and Mario and Sonic at the 2014 Moon Olympics, or whatever the hell it was called. Like, at that point, the Wii U wasn't that successful of a console. It's kind of unfair to judge that with games like, say, Sonic Colors or Sonic and the Black Knight, because at that point, when those games came out, the Wii was clearly the most successful console of that generation. So it's kind of like, I'm sure at that point, Sega were like, if we sign a contract with the Wii U, the Wii's selling like hotcakes, the Wii U's gonna sell amazingly well. Cut to when it first came out, and no bugger bought it. So I think kind of like what Ted was saying. I think towards the end, because I think they did say there was some scuttlebutt about apparently Boom was originally being developed for Xbox One, PS4, what have you, but then apparently Sega, I think it was maybe like halfway through production, or like when a sizable amount of production had already been made, Sega will like put it on the Wii U, and Bigger Button were apparently like, well, this game wasn't designed for the Wii U, and Sega were like, we don't care, put it on the Wii U, which again would lead credence to the fact that Sega were like, let's get out of this contract and make some games for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4.
The thing about the restructure is that people do think it was an overnight affair, but the restructure was actually announced back in May and then November last year.
Yeah, we didn't think we were serious. No, I'm kidding.
we thought it was a really late April Fool's joke, Donnie, alright? We didn't know.
Yeah, no. Can we take a step back, though? Is it Sega because I've been hearing only news about Sega of America and Europe restructuring, and I haven't heard a lick of any words from Sega of Japan.
From what I understand, only Sega of Japan, in terms of their video games, what I understand, will fundamentally be left alone. I believe a section of their arcade division will be seeing some slight layoffs, but in terms of like Sonic Team and the game makers for like the consoles, they should be relatively untouched, I believe. If not, I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comment section and call me an idiot.
Well, that doesn't really surprise me, mostly because Sega has such a big arcade founding in Japan. That's not really something they want to screw up.
Yeah, Sega makes a lot of its money in Japanese pachinko machines, actually. Like, I don't know if it's a majority of their money, but a lot. So it's not like Sega's going under or anything. I think people are exaggerating that.
A lot of people say that. I mean, it's like every time Nintendo, it's like all those articles say Nintendo's going under. It's like, no, you're an idiot. It's the same with Sega. Like Sega, a lot of people don't notice. Like recently, Sega just released a Luigi's Mansion arcade game that's actually being developed by Capcom, and a lot of people were like, why the hell is Sega, like announcing this? It's because Sega, like most arcade games you play, you're using Sega software. Like Sega, own the market pretty much in arcade games. That's why it's unlikely they'll ever go out of business. I mean, they may stop making video games for consoles and stuff, but Sega as a company will never really go under as long as arcades are around. Yeah. Sega will be rolling in money.
But that's primarily in Japan, which just sort of feeds into itself.
The thing about Sega is Sega of Japan is relatively, their game division is relatively untouched. And then it doesn't surprise me because Sega of Japan is actually very, very rich. That's their main base, and I'm not particularly surprised that Sega of Japan kind of dodged a bullet there. Sega of America is indeed going to be getting the brunt of it, and Sega of Europe is going to be having limited layoffs, at least that's what they said. Their subsidiaries like Creative Assembly are going to be just fine. They confirmed that Creative Assembly will be fine, Sports Interactive will be fine.
Well, who or what in Sega of America and Europe are getting primarily affected the most with these layoffs? Like, who are the people that are losing their jobs or taking early retirement?
Basically, the people who wouldn't really help with the mobile and PC focus. People who might make a box art for games on a retail or something like that. They wouldn't be as needed since they're going to be focusing more on mobile and PC, so they might be let go. But the main reason why people are getting laid off at Sega of America, and the reason why Sega of America in particular is taking the brunt of this, is because, and I quote, this is their way of keeping Sega of America afloat. If they did not do this, Sega of America would cease to exist.
Oh, wow.
Where's that quote coming from?
Sega of America released a statement themselves not long afterwards, pretty much confirming all this and mentioning that the Boom cartoon would stick around, and they were the ones that confirmed the move as well.
I know that there's a certain point with the fact that they're moving to Southern California. It's because obviously, like a few months ago, Sega released that statement saying they're going to be like licensing out their franchises for things like movies and cartoons and animations and animations and cartoons is the same thing. Disregard that statement. But like, they're going to be licensing out their properties to like other mediums, and obviously like, I mean, they could, I guess, kind of get the job done in San Francisco, but a lot of those big corporations, especially like Sony, which is making these Sonic movies, based in Southern California, so it makes sense that they would want to relocate their offices to where all of the deals that they're working on are also located.
Okay, now I am awful at geography, so I'm gonna need a little bit of help with this. I know San Francisco and LA are both in California. How far away are they?
They're about 6 hours away from each other.
Oh, okay.
California is a big place.
I live in Massachusetts, where everything's like a 20-minute drive. That's why I have a bad sense of scale with these things. But
yeah, he lives in the small states.
Gotta drive fast.
But here's the thing that I'm wondering. Like, okay, so Sega wants to move more towards like cartoons and stuff. Is what is the kind of idea that I'm getting from all this, right, Donnie?
In the Sega Sammy Holdings report that confirmed the restructure and all this, they do specifically mention Sonic, and they quote it as they're wanting to make it so Sonic has some kind of a reinforcement, which is essentially like changing the behavior of Sonic to a point where he has stable sales, which told me, like, basically how I interpreted it was, Sonic is not getting stable sales. It's up and down, and it's not really
all around.
Yeah.
Donnie, you have to make the obvious highway joke with that.
Like, Donnie, if I had done that, this whole conversation would have just dropped, alright? It had to be done.
Like, trying to get back on topic, like, what I'm thinking about necessarily is Sega's other franchises, and, like, I know, like...
What other franchises?
I know, obvious joke is obvious, but, like, you know, I am a fan of some Sega franchises other than Sonic, particularly Super Monkey Ball. I love Monkey Ball 1 and 2, particularly. The Wii ones we don't speak about those, but Monkey Ball, you know, one of the only decent to launch games on the 3DS was Super Monkey Ball 3D, and I really liked that game. So I'm wondering, you know, if Sega wouldn't have this issue if they didn't have to rely on just one mascot.
That's the double-edged sword, though, Ted. Sonic is the only one in America and Europe, anyway. I mean, no, not in so much Europe. I would say America specifically. Sonic, I think, out of all the Sega franchises that Sega's had throughout the years, is the only one that sells. You know, everyone, like, you know, I bring the topic of discussion has been brought up many times. I've said it plenty of times before in videos, and everyone's quick to bring up all the other franchises and Sega has, but a lot of them are Japan only, or at least have the biggest audience in Japan and have a real niche audience in overseas. Like the Yakuza series, I think, was one of them.
Or the Panzer Dragoon?
But Panzer Dragoon was actually really successful in the beginning, but that was in the mid-90s. And after, I think, around the 6th generation, or Xbox GameCube, it just sort of, like, dwindled off. Not counting Panzer Dragoon Saga, obviously, which is a beloved game. But, you know, I think it was only recently where, like, Hatsune Miku was brought over. And that was in Japan for how long?
Oh, yeah, it was around for a good long while. I think it was probably easily a good 5 years. I'd estimate. I think it was around with the PSP. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, it was around with the PSP.
and it just started coming out over here, and they're finally getting those titles out. And
Just boot up Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and look at the roster. And honestly, besides the Sonic characters, can you point at one character and say, when's the last time this person's had a game?
Yeah, pretty much. And even the title, like, originally there was, like, Sega Superstars for the iToy. I don't think that sold well.
That was a good game, though. It was a good game.
And then there was Sega Superstars Tennis, and I don't know if that sold well either, but then you notice, like, hey, why don't we put Sonic's name in front of these games? So all of a sudden it became Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Because Sonic sells, you know?
You're kind of right about that, because, like, I was just interested, so I looked up VG charts, and I know that's not the most accurate source, but it gives me a ballpark range. For Monkey Ball in particular, because I think, other than Sonic, that's probably my favorite Sega franchise. And while the first couple of games did break a million units, and I think the Wii one, Banana Blitz, broke 2, ever since then, they've been lucky to break half a million. And, again, like, that's still not bad, that's decent sales, but for a company as big as Sega, it's not enough to keep them afloat. So, again, I think you're right that it is a double-edged sword in that, nothing else, none of their other franchises are really relevant anymore, but that just means that they have to keep all their eggs in one basket with Sonic, so it's just not a good business strategy, I guess.
their efforts with publishing other games has sort of had trouble as well, because look at the whole problem that came across with Aliens Colonial Marines. They published that, and they pretty much got screwed with that whole game from what I read.
Well, to be fair, it was Gearbox and their licensing partners that made the game. Sega just published it.
And then Sega sued them. that's how bad that game was. Sega sued them over it.
Hey, this isn't Sonic 5!
It's supposed to be Echo the Dolphin, damn it, not aliens!
Now I just imagine what would have happened if Echo the Dolphin and the Aliens franchise crossed over, like Echo the Dolphin Colonial.
But there are aliens in Echo the Dolphin.
That's the kicker.
But are they xenomorph aliens?
He has a built-in motion tracker. Just use the sonar.
Glad that franchise is dead.
That's the thing, is that there's a lot of franchises that Sega has that I think there's love for, but just not in the numbers that Sonic has, and that's the shame of it all, because I'd like to see a new Phantasy Star. I'd like to see a reimagining of Golden Axe or Streets of Rage. I'd like to see Knights come back in some real way, because I love that game, and there's so many great titles that they have.
People are still very, very sad there hasn't been a Shenmue 3. Shenmue 2 ended on a cliffhanger. It didn't sell well at all, and so they never got to make Shenmue 3, and so many people are disappointed by that.
Specifically, Knights, they did try to bring back Knights, which, I was surprised that they did back in the Wii, but didn't that game end up not doing well either?
Well, that had a lot of other problems besides just it being Knights.
It's weird because like every few months it'll be leaked that like a studio was working on a kind of revamp of an old Sega game. I think a Street of Rage like reboot was leaked like a few months ago. Like I forget which company was working there, but a smaller studio was working on a Street of Rage reboot. And like apparently it got fairly far in production, and then Sega were just like, nope, forget about it. And then when I was released, fans were like, what the hell, man? Like, we'd buy this game. Like, release it, please.
Especially with the popularity of digital titles for something on the console, that would work well.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
That's the thing. There's been a bunch of like retro revivals. I mean, I was thinking like of a Double Dragon Neo, and that apparently, that was by a Way Forward, and apparently that sold pretty well. So like, I'm sure like even if Sega just took some of the older franchises like Streets of Rage or Golden Axe and made kind of like a smaller digital download version, I'm sure people would buy it. I mean, like, for all the flack that Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2 get, I know that bears the Sonic name, so it's by definition going to be more popular than these other ones are. That was kind of like 06, like a lot of people hate it, but those games were commercial successes.
Yeah.
And also with a digital game, from my understanding, there's slightly less risk involved, because obviously your budgets will be less, and you won't have to worry about printing discs or boxes or manuals, what have you. And so, like, there's less fear about we're gonna lose our investment on this, from what I understand.
Well, I think the thing is that to Sega, a digital game is a digital game, and so why put a digital game on the Xbox Live Arcade when potentially 2, 3, 5 times as many people will buy that same game if you put it on the App Store? Like, it would make us happier if we could get, like, controller support and shiny HD graphics and online play, but, Sega would probably rather, throw something out there quick that people would buy so that they could get whatever they can. And, not saying that's like a smart business practice, but I think that would be the more likely outcome.
As long as they get Jennifer Lawrence to get naked in front of a Super Bowl ad.
What? What the hell?
I think that was.
I'm talking about that. What was it?
I think you're talking
Game of
Kate.
War.
Yeah, Kate Upton.
Kate Upton. My bad.
I'm
I'm not a celebrity person.
I was like, when did I miss that one? You know what?
It's like, what Sega game is this in?
Yeah, like, I have to buy this. You know what? Although, to go off on a very quick tangent, those adverts Ryan's talking about, like Game of War, those adverts cost $40 million to make, which is twice Sonic Boom's budget. More money was spent on advertisements for a iPhone game than Sega spent on their flagship reboot of their #1 character.
There were 3 separate mobile games that got Super Bowl commercials. All of them look terrible, but they got Kate Upton involved. They got freaking Liam Neeson involved in the one. I don't even know what the hell that game was called.
That one was funny.
That was a good commercial. I'll give it that. But the game's just like
Clash of Clans, I think. I think that was Clash of Clans.
Yeah, I think it was Clash of Clans in the Liam Neeson one. Yeah.
Sega need to do this for Sonic Jump Fever. We need to get like Mike Tyson to advertise Sonic Jump Fever. Why not?
Well, they're not exactly wrong in that case, because if these 3 separate games are able to put out commercials in the freaking Super Bowl, which I'm trying to remember the last video game that actually had a Super Bowl ad, they're not wrong in to try to push Sonic in that direction, or just push in that direction to have more mobile games come out and sort of capitalize on that market.
To go off that, to go into like what was just reviewed a few days ago, that's why, I mean, like, at the moment there are 3 Sonic iPhone games: Sonic Jump, Sonic Dash, and Sonic Jump Fever, all designed by British developer Hardlight Studios. But as was revealed a few days ago, the next Sonic game made by Sonic Team, and from what we understand, the A-team of Sonic Team, is Sonic Runners, which is going to be just a purely iPhone game. And from what they were able to translate from Famitsu, apparently it's going to be like those games, going to be free to play, but there will be in-store purchases, which is apparently Sega have done quite well with things like Dash. I think Dash in particular, and Jump Fever have made them quite a bit of money with the, like, it's free to play, but if you want to get more red rings, you can play as Amy Rose, then give us $20, please. And so, like, a lot of people do that kind of stuff, and so that's probably why they've said let's put out next. I'm not sure if you want to class this as the next canon game, because apparently this will have a storyline that is made by all of the A-team developers and what have you. But like the fact that they have, again, the A-team working on an iPhone game, to me, kind of really speaks volumes to the fact that they are seriously pushing mobile and PC gaming as Sega's next forefront into trying, reclaim their stature as a top-notch game developer.
Well, I got 2 questions in regards to that. Is like, have any of you guys actually played those the Sonic Jump?
I have.
And Sonic...
I have all of them.
Are they more or less successful than their mobile remakes of like Sonic 2 than Sonic 1 that came out?
I would say this. I might get a bit of hatred for this, but this is just me. In terms of playability, I prefer the ones that were designed for the iPhone, because to me, I don't think iPhone is the best device for a platformer. Mm-hmm. And so I have trouble playing, because I have Sonic 1 and 2. I have all those remakes. I love those games. I find it hard to play them using the iPod, iPhone touchpad and stuff. So I think something like Dash is very easy to play, because all you need to do is just flip up and touch it to make Sonic dash and jump.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I will praise again and again the quality of the iOS Android remasters of Sonic 1 and 2 by Christian Whitehead and Stealth, but there are me and a lot of other people clamor for a console or PC release of those games, because Sonic is a simple game. It's already a simple enough platformer. You use one button to pretty much have Sonic do everything, except move left and right. But it's not designed for that kind of device.
Because people play iPhone games for very different reason than they play console games, or even DS games. You play your DS when you're on on a half-hour subway ride or something. When you've got a significant amount of time to. But maybe not the amount of time you'd spend on a console, but, a decent enough time when you're on the go to sit down and play a game. But people play their iPhones when they are, in the bathroom, or not paying attention in class, or, things like
work.
that. Yeah, when they can play for like 1 to 5 minutes. That's why things like Candy Crush or my brother particularly likes Clash of Clans or stuff like that. That's why those types of games do well. And while Sonic, isn't a particularly long game, like the 2D platformers, I should say, you can't really get much done in a minute of playing Sonic 1 or 2. You need at least like 15. So I think, design-wise, control-wise, it's not really meant for it. So, I'm not surprised. I would be not surprised at all if Dash, Jump Fever were all more successful than those ports.
Although from what Sega released, apparently the re-releases did, if I'm quoting correctly, exceed expectations for sales. Although I'm not sure, because I know people because they already put like 1 and 2 on originally, but they were just kind of like haphazard ports of the original Mega Drive versions. From what I understand, people who already bought those were instantly upgraded to the remaster. So I'm not sure if they're including those numbers in how it exceeded expectations, or if it was just people who bought the remasters brand new. But either way, apparently they were very happy with those, and I think something like Dash and Jump, I don't know, at least Dash has at least over 1 million downloads. When Dash first came out, you had to pay to buy it. I remember because I bought it the day it came out for $2 and I felt ripped off. But I'm sure stuff like that, and the fact that the remasters have sold so well is why Sega or Nintendo, as I said, put their A team on an iPhone game. Which, if you would have told me that 5 years ago, I'd have been flabbergasted.
Well, what about Ryan and Donnie and Clement? What do you guys' experience with these mobile games?
I've never played them. But the thing is that for mobile and PC games, Sega is best. Like, they've been doing best with those two platforms, and that's why they're wanting to put more of a focus on them, because they're more successful. It's gotten to the point now where mobile gaming has sort of become quite a rival to console gaming, and so much so that Sega is even seeing a lot more success on mobile and PC platforms than on consoles. And Sammy decided, you know what, if consoles have been kind of up and down and all around, I went there, we should probably just focus on what is actually working. And what's actually working? Mobile and PC gaming. So that's why they're focused on it. And I mean, I don't know for sure how. Currently, console gaming is still unclear. Like, they never said we're done with consoles. They just said we're focusing less on that and more on PC and mobile gaming, which means I don't think they haven't counted consoles out just yet. The way they were hinting at how they were going to deal with Sonic, it sounds to me like they're not done with Sonic on consoles yet. I think like I said, they were reinforcing Sonic to try to get better consistency with their sales.
Well, to quickly interject, there was, I believe I normally I wouldn't bring this up, but there was a 4chan user called Wentos who has made several claims over the years about upcoming games, and in pretty much every single one of them, he's been 95% correct about everything he said. And he did say that at the moment, he was the one who first predicted Runners months ago. And he said, according to sources he has, that there will be because obviously we know about the Sonic movie, there will be a console Sonic movie game, and then apparently there will be a upcoming Wii U game as well at some point in the future. Which, whether that happens is yet to be seen. But because of Wentos, it came from him, and he's been right so many times in the past, I'm gonna be inclined to agree with him that we will see Sonic games on consoles in the future.
Well, I'm not surprised that they're not gonna, again, one bad game isn't going to, or one bad selling game, I should say, isn't going to kill Sonic, because Sonic's bounced back from plenty of titles that have sold, had mediocre sales, and had awful critical reception.
Well, you see, I would say it's more awful critical reception than sales, because as we go back to Sonic 06 again. Even though that was a miserable game in terms of Metacritic and general opinion, it still sold over 1 million.
It's like I said, they specifically mention sales and how it's unstable as a reason for Sonic being restructured. As a matter of fact, I can read you the exact quote that was said. The Sonic and merchandising businesses will be reinforced to establish a structure which can generate stable profits. So basically, they are sick and tired of Sonic not having a consistent profit. It's been all over the place. It's just, and Sega Sammy's tired of it. They're putting their foot down.
Well, maybe they should make consistently good games then.
Well, it's two things. One, consistently good games, and as we touched on earlier, the last 3 Sonic games have been on an exclusive console, a console that a lot of people, even today, don't own a large number of, compared to Generations, which was Xbox 360, PS3, PC, and multi-platform games in general, honestly. And I think that's where Sega flourished, is in its multi-platform. To stick to one console, I don't know what kind of money Nintendo was offering on the table, what kind of contracts they were offering. I don't know, maybe a really nice golden car.
They were offering Pink Gold Peach.
That's Sega's fault? Shit.
They were offering Sega amiibos. That's why there's none in America. Damn you.
Alright guys, I think that does it for part 1 of this roundtable discussion, but we're far from done as we talk more about the future of Sonic, Sega in general, and how they could obtain more interest in their other franchises in part 2. So I hope you'll check that out. I want to thank everyone for joining me today, and you can find links to their stuff in the description below, so definitely check them out. And thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Sega and other things gaming too. Until next time guys, bye.
Mayday, Mayday, the plane's on fire! Escape!
No food or movies? I'm out of here.
Talk about low budget flights.
I like running better.
I will flatten you.
Oh god. Alright.